What happened to your high school bully? I had two. One ended up in jail for selling meth and beating his girlfriend. Good riddance. The other one went to college and became a chemical engineer. He messaged me on Facebook a while back and apologized for being a douche in high school, which I accepted. Has a wife and a kid now, seems to be doing good for himself, so I'm happy for him. Never really bullied me, but others he did. Always lived like no rules applied to him. Saw on the local news a couple years ago he got pulled over for something, ended up in a high-speed chase. The cops did a pit maneuver and made him spin out. Dipshit pulls a gun and fires at the cops, who in turn, shot up his car and him dead. My dentist told me a story about his bully. Just after he opened his practice, he made an emergency appointment because of a cracked tooth. The dentist recognized him, but the bully didn't. Bully got in the chair, dentist said open wide and started examining him. Then he said, "You don't recognize me, do you?" Bully said no, the best he could with the dentist's tools in his mouth. "You used to bully me at school. You made my life hell." Perfect timing. The bully apologized and the dentist repaired his tooth. But imagine how he felt for those few seconds being absolutely powerless. Edit, this was in the UK in about 1992 when we didn't sue people for something that wasn't your fault. She was popular in high school, until the day she got high off spice with her cousin and then stabbed her cousin to death. She's in jail now, her family is broken, and she swears up and down she did it because God told her to. To be honest, I feel completely horrible for her family. They don't deserve the social backlash and the heartache. I was obese until I was almost 21. Every single person, girl and guy, that bullied me for my weight got fat. I'm now a size 5. It feels damn good to see them in public. My bully is now dating my older brother's bully. I wonder if they bully each other now. It's dysgenics, the opposite of eugenics. They will have genetically pure bully children soon. Beware. Dead. Both of them. One shot himself after he got into so much trouble he thought daddy couldn't bail him out. The other was doing 90 down a country road, drunk off his ass, and the road took a hard left and he didn't. Threw him through the windshield and killed on impact. Was involved in a motorcycle accident and suffered serious brain damage. Actually made him a much nicer person. That accident knocked the cunt out of him. He's part owner of an auto parts store I buy from. He's also the second baseman on my beer league softball team I coach. One of my players said they had a guy to fill in for a tournament, so, needing bodies, I agreed. My heart sank when he came strutting up. My player introduced me to him, and he said yes Strofari, and I go way back. I made his life hell in high school. I don't think I'll be welcome to play, but thanks for the opportunity. He turned and started walking away, and I called him back over. Told him that if he's half as good as he was when we were teenagers, he's welcome to play. He immediately agreed, and after the first game, which we won by the mercy rule, he had a long chat with me in the beer gardens. We're good friends now, and he has a permanent spot on my team. And yes, he is still as good as he was on high school. One of mine sniffed a lot of glue and ended up in a mental institution. He's still there last I heard. 2 others attacked me late one night while I was walking near my home. These 2 were constantly in trouble as juveniles. One caught 2 bullets in a fight and died, the other was stabbed to death in a fight. I'm 70 now. I lived a good life after those 2 encounters. Well, I never had a high school bully, but my elementary school bully and I are still neighbors. Apparently she stole money from her boyfriend and he came banging at her door and kicking it to get it back. I think her son is 3 or 4 and we are 19. She got a lower back tattoo when she was 12. My father knew she bullied me, but her parents don't, so her mother is always telling how nice I am and how she wishes her daughter and I were friends so I could lead by example. I found him working the counter at Little Caesars Pizza about 10 years after graduation. He didn't recognize me, but he did call me sir. I bet that was the most satisfying, smiley pizza you have ever eaten. Similar story about a girl and Starbucks. One of them served time in prison for stabbing someone. Another tried spreading rumors that I went AWOL from the army and was living in Canada. I was able to confront that after I got back from the Gulf. We became best friends, and I'm going to be in his wedding next year. I don't know and I don't care. Edit, I really like the rhymes. We had various scraps for much of middle school. I hated him. He was a racist creep hurling various insults at me for laughs. I was the only dark boy in a rural town and helplessly small. He took pot shots whenever he could, being so much bigger than me. We finally had a classic schoolyard brawl after school late in the winter. Surrounded by a dozen or so boys egging us on, we fought. I won with nothing more than a hard shove onto the frozen ground. His backpack spilled open and all his books and papers went flying out onto the snow-covered field alongside his will to fight. He stumbled away in sobs. The jocks nicknamed me Rocky after that fight, and I felt vindicated and proud. Now when I think back all those years ago, my heart breaks for him in countless ways. He was molested repeatedly by his adoptive parents less than a block away from my own home. He was picked on by other kids as well. We were both outcasts in our own separate ways, but he suffered far worse than I could ever imagine. He ended up in juvie then, later, in prison. I wish I could take back that fateful afternoon. Everyone here is fighting for their lives, facing all kinds of darkness, begging for a little light. I didn't have a high school bully, but I did have bullies in elementary and middle school. The elementary school ones eventually realized it was stupid and we ended up being okay acquaintances. They probably went on to have normal lives. The middle school one, I don't know, but last I saw him he was just as bitter as always. My bullies were all high achievers and are now doing pretty well with their lives. Their moms are friends with my moms, so I could never report the bullying. Mom didn't think people with good grades would ever bully anyone, and that I am the liar because I had bad grades. One of them committed suicide. I still drink a few beers on him each year. He wasn't a bad guy, just someone getting peer pressured and having to deal with his demons. The other ones, I've forgiven them, but only for myself. They altered my personality to the worse, but I'm over it. I don't wish anyone anything bad, not even them. Died in a meth house explosion. I actually kind of felt bad, but then I remembered he was the first person who slapped me because bitches need to be put in their place. He became a Disney star after his success on Vine, made millions of dollars, and now lives in a mansion in Cali. You might have heard of him and his younger brother, Logan and Jake Paul. He apologized to me one day, a few months before I moved away. Told me that he felt bad about how he treated me, and said that it must have really hurt to be called those names. I told him I forgave him, that we were all just stupid kids. A week later he shot himself in the head in his parents' front yard. I skipped the funeral. I'm not sure why, whether I was scared or tried to play it cool, but there is literally nothing I regret more than missing that. He bullied me in elementary school when we were very young. Then he changed schools and I didn't see him for many years and pretty much forgot about him. One day my close friend, who has a history of dating very aggressive, temperamental and macho types, tells me she met someone, and it turns out to be him. They date for a while, she is very unhappy. Tells me drunkenly more than once that she plans to leave him. Then she gets pregnant, so they stay together for a while. I get to know him a little better, and he's still kind of a douche, but I think he has a good heart, and just has lots of anger and mental health issues. But he actually seems like he's a pretty good dad. One night my other friend calls me to tell his body was found on the train tracks. He had killed himself. Eventually find out later, that my friend had broken up with him, and they were being evicted from their apartment. I guess he just gave up, he didn't know where else to go. It's sad, and it's too bad he didn't get the help he so obviously needed. I was the bully to some people. If the bully has a soul, they regret everything they did like I have. Sometimes the shame has made me reach out and apologize to former victims with wildly varying results. Middle school bully, got stuck in a loveless marriage and reached out to me 2 years ago. not to apologize, but to try to sell me some health pyramid scheme bullshit. Usually I'd politely decline, but for her I listed why the product sucked and explained why she was getting screwed over by selling it. I was pretty rude, but she wouldn't take no for an answer. Went so far as to mention how I wasn't looking to gain weight, as from her picture I assumed that's what it did. For a minute I felt bad, but this chick always got on me for being small and how it was unhealthy when she was obviously suffering physically from too much weight. I think she was trying to use her old ways to bully me into buying, guessing she didn't realize I'm not 12 and have learned to stand up for myself. She aged poorly. She's completely grey, at 44, and her skin is super wrinkly. She looks old enough to be my mother. And she's super nice to me when I run into her. Bullied me relentlessly for being gay. 20 years later ran into him and his husband in Provincetown, Massachusetts killed himself last year. Was weird BC he actually was super active in the gay community in his city, a major city, and by all accounts was a good guy. Pro tip for gay kids, your homophobic bully wants to duck you. She dated one of my primary school bullies. He raped her. She got pregnant. Now she's raising his child alone. I feel sorry for her. She might be horrible but one deserves that. 1 year after high school found shot execution style. He thought he could be some kind of drug lord, but he was wrong. Not a bully per se, but my girlfriend's mom hated me, made my life miserable and caused her daughter to break up with me. I was driving back to university and buying gas. Her mom was working at the gas station. She saw me and looked like she'd seen a ghost. I smiled, put the cash in the counter and walked out not saying a word. Her daughter became a single mother just like she was. I became an engineer. I guess I was the asshole in high school. Enormous ego, thought I was hot shit cause I played sports, had my fair share of women. All that shit went out the window when I graduated and went to college. In HS, people worshipped you for being a asshole. In college, if you were a ass, people just wouldn't associate them with you. Had a huge reality check and matured, mellowed a lot since then. I've apologized to a handful of people since. Realized my arsehole-ness was from a lingering insecurity that I had. The worst one graduated from college and has gone on to become extremely successful in investment banking. He was working for one of the largest investment firms at first, now has his own company. I am not in touch with him but come from a very small town and people like to talk about the small town boy that made it big. He was fucking ruthless as a bully and downright mean. He thinks he is God's gift to women when he is completely gross. I am convinced he is a sociopath and has managed to get this successful by doing illegal things. I Google him and the company name every so often to see if he has been arrested. My high school bully was myself. I beat myself up a lot and had super low self-esteem. I was in a dark place. I've gotten better about loving myself since then. I had 3 J, Z, and C for anonymity, because I was an anime club running, a cappella singing, stage crew assisting, D&D playing, video game obsessed, weebuber nerd back then. I still am, but I was, then, too, and I didn't have nearly the charisma I do now. J was the jock bully. Liked to hit me with lacrosse sticks. Brag that he was going to own an airplane someday while I'd grow up to be a nothing because my family wasn't old money. He died in a private airplane crash along with basically his entire family, except his estranged brother. Z was the druggy bully. General asshole with a crappy childhood. Tried to force me to snort cocaine, more than once. Tried to sexually assault my best female friend at the time. Came out as bisexual, went to a gay-only party, died of a drug overdose in the bathroom, which is how his parents found out he did drugs, and was bi. C was an ideological rival more than a bully. Conventionally attractive, dumb as a brick but from a wealthy line of surgeons. His future was all but decided for him. He liked to pick on me for having useless skills like being a bookworm and an artist, and prided himself on his athletic skills, perfect health, and romantic prowess above all else, shoving these in my face and calling me a loser. He is currently a fat unemployed druggy undergrad dropout whose father abandoned their family out of shame, then had a very public affair from whence a child was born, who he gave the same name as C in order to try again. So yeah, I'm doing okay.